Things are not going to happen overnight. And to test your level of commitment, the test of your level of commitment is whether or not you're willing to hang in, do your research, learn what you need to learn, and execute it properly. Hey, it's your girl Jennifer, and I know I look a mess, y'all. Look a mess, but I've been out here in the yard cutting the grass. And of course, I had a thought that I want to share with you. I want to talk to you about proficiency and dedication. When I first moved into my home, it was actually I moved into my grandparents' home. But when I moved in about 18 years ago, my grandparents had already been here, obviously, for my lifetime at some time before. So we've got about a 50-year legacy here in our community. And when I first moved into this house, I could care less about grass, about flowers, about any type of, beautification or street curb appeal, any of that. I could care less. When I bought my home, I was newly married, a new mother, again, could care less. And just to give you a little background, my mother and father had really very untraditional roles for that time. My mother cut the grass and did everything outside, and my father did, especially later in life, he did the grocery shopping, he did cooking. This was after my brother went to college. My brother's 4 years older than me. And they kind of just kept those roles. So as I got older, that's what I saw. I saw my mother cutting the grass. I saw my father kind of, in what would otherwise be seen as domesticated roles. So fast forward, when I graduated from college and I moved away to another city, and then I eventually came home. My paternal grandmother was ill, and I just realized that I needed to be closer to home, period, in general. So I transferred back with my company and came back home, and I moved to an apartment. And so, of course, apartment dwellers, you don't have to worry about anything. The grounds are kept for you by your apartment complex and or management company, so you don't have those concerns. And then I got married. I bought a house, and I literally had no idea the responsibilities of a homeowner. None. My mother had someone come cut my grass, and it was ironic, but it's kind of funny now because I'm such a enthusiast as it relates to maintaining my property. But when he used to cut my grass, I also had hedges, evergreen hedges, and I would never clip them. And I remember him saying, "Look, I cut the grass." I think he actually said it to my mother because she was the one who was actually paying him for services. He said, "Look, I cut the grass and I also cut the hedges because unkept hedges make my work look bad. And I don't want my name associated with a property that's in other words, was in disrepair." So I understood what he was saying now, but back then I didn't care. Didn't I tell y'all I was newly married with a new baby? And FYI, I am divorced and have been divorced for some time. So that gives you just a little idea of what kind of headspace I was in newly married. So my maternal grandmother unfortunately became ill, and I needed out of my house. And so I moved in to this property. And when I moved here, my grandmother had 2 rocks in the front of her lawn, and she had the beds that went around the house. I'm going to show you in the front of the house. She didn't have, she had Funkia, the hostas that you see coming out, and I had my mother remove all of them. Because again, I didn't have a green thumb. I didn't give a flying fig. But she had 2 rocks. I'm going to show you one of the rocks, right? I don't know if you can see it. Right there is a rock. The bed did not exist. It was just 2 rocks in her mailbox in the front beds. So when I moved into her house, I kept the same guy for a brief moment in time, but I was like, it's time for me, just because I loved my grandparents so, and my grandfather did a lot to maintain. He bought this lot, and then he bought subsequent lots to make sure the lot was buildable, and we'll talk about that in another video in my, keeping you informed as a resident series. Knowledge is necessary. My grandfather was very diligent about maintaining this property so that he could build a house on it and maintaining it. My grandfather died of cancer when I was in the 4th grade. So my grandmother, a widower, was here by herself. And so my mother and my grandmother had people try to maintain it. This is a lot of property, a lot of land. And so when I got out here, I have a neighbor who lives next door to me, and her property was immaculate, like award-winning, like should be at Home and Gardens type. Her property, her flowers, everything was, y'all, gorgeous. And so I got out here and I was like, listen, I have to honor my grandparents by maintaining this property, right? And doing things that I don't ordinarily do, i.e. cut the grass and give a flying fig about what it looks like when I get done. So I have what I refer to as Big Red. And y'all, no judgment. I'm just, opening up to you, showing you a little bit about myself beyond being a leader, learning and development consultant, an author, communication professional and professor, and all the other hats that I've worn, politician, all of that, just to show you a little bit about me. So I'm gonna show you my garage. I say all that to say, I'm gonna show you my garage, no judgment. I'm gonna show you a little corner of it too. Never mind the tarps. I use that to cover up Chateau Early. What I really want to show you is that baby right there. That wheel horse, yeah. See it? Yeah, I know it needs to be blown off, I know. And that is the rototiller and the blade that my grandfather bought to go with it. My grandfather bought that tractor the year that I was born. I still use that tractor. I use that tractor today, just before I did this video. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that fact that I still have that. I still have a couple things around the house that belong to them. I still have my grandmother's garbage can. Yes, the wheel fell off. However, I still have it. It ain't going nowhere. It's storage in the garage because it's theirs, okay? Because it's theirs. That wheel horse, can I get a zero turn machine and be done with my grass in like 30 minutes? Yes, I could. But I love being on that wheel horse and knowing that my grandfather is smiling down from heaven. Like, look at my baby girl. My grandfather, this is another story for another video, was not my biological grandfather. There was no blood shared between he and I. But I loved him and he loved me. And to be on that tractor and to pay homage to them is so important. So I will never get rid of their things. And my mother, we laugh about that garbage can. Child, that garbage can has been through so much. I ain't gonna tell you things that have been wasted in it that I had to clean out simply because I was not throwing that garbage can away. So every time between my dog and my family, I let you guys see a little bit more of me. But anyway, I digress. My point today is proficiency and determination, because I've talked to you about starting where you are. I've talked about practice makes perfect, and I know I got the naysayers that are like, no, practice doesn't necessarily make perfect. Well, obviously, if you're doing the wrong thing over and over and over and over again, all you're doing is perfecting the wrong way of doing it. But proficiency and determination means that you care enough to want to do things the right way, learn how to do them the right way, practice how to do it the right way until you become proficient at doing it the right way. So when I moved into this house, I already told you what my grandmother had. I was going through a divorce and I found that working in the yard was therapeutic. as an aside, I always talk about mental health as well. Folks, get out in nature, take a walk, work with your hands, get yourself grounded, walk barefoot through the grass, learn to appreciate nature and everything that God has provided for us. That will give you some type of solace. It may not happen immediately. The first time I was out here, I was like, this is for the freaking birds. This is why I don't do this. This is why I love doing it. But the more and more I was out here, remember I told you about my neighbor that had the award-winning yard. She says, I've been out here for 18 years. She's now 18 years older, so her yard is not, unfortunately, is not maintained anymore because of where she is in her health and her age. But when I got out here, and I showed you Big Red already, I didn't know how to cut grass with a walking mower, let alone get on a tractor. And we had a handyman, Cliff, who did some things around the house. The house really needed a lot of work. I mean, waterproofing and all kind of things I just won't get into today. But the house needed a lot of work, so Cliff helped do a lot of things around the house. So Cliff came out, he changed the oil on the wheel horse. And the wheel horse, because I'm a researcher, y'all know that if you've been following me any length of time, you know that I have to know what the heck is going on. I need to know the history of things and what I'm doing and the purpose and all of that. So I looked up the wheel horse. I belong to Wheel Horse Forums. I told you it was about the year I was born. So in the 70s, I have one of the original wheel horse tractors. It was just a number. It doesn't even have necessarily a name. In subsequent years, they started to name them. And I think wheel horse eventually became Toro, but I have a wheel horse tractor, so I didn't know anything about it at the time. So Cliff changed the oil and made sure that it was, that I knew. He taught me how to drive it. And when I first would use it, I would cut forward and then I would reverse all the way back down the line and cut forward and come. Now you all see how much property I have, right? So that was an all day, and I'm not even showing you everything. I'm just showing you part of my backyard now. That was an all day endeavor. My neighbors would sit out in their yard, in their lawn chairs, and laugh at me like I was the afternoon entertainment when I would cut the grass. But you know what? I was undaunted. I was undeterred. I was determined to figure this out. So in addition to cutting the grass, I also dug beds, okay? That bed there, I dug the entire bed and planted it. That bed there, dug the entire bed and planted it. Now, this would be, an entire season and or seasons. I would be like, it just got to be like cheap, very effective therapy, because whatever frustration I had or anger or disappointment or sadness, I could just spew it out in my yard in the dirt and turn it over. Okay, show you this one right here. This bed all the way down the line to the street, I dug that. Now, the little hodgepodge right here, that was there. My grandmother had that. But yeah, I dug, and the bed, this bed here that comes around the house, I dug that. She had beds in the front and on the side. But anyway, I dug those beds in addition to cutting the grass. But what I want to say is, I told you I was like their entertainment, right? They would sit and literally laugh at me while I was on the tractor. And once I got done going back and forth in lines, I would then do circles, right? So that way I didn't have to reverse it and put it into gear. I had to learn all that. I had to learn how to drive it like a stick shift, all of that. I learned eventually how to maintain it. But I say all that to say that I was determined to honor my grandparents, honor myself, and learn what it meant to be a homeowner. There are a lot of people who were like me when I bought my home, who don't know, maybe don't even care to know. And therefore you see their investment go down the drain, right? And then if you're a neighbor, you're concerned because that makes your value of your home go down too. That's why communities are so concerned about their housing stock. Think about it for a minute. Think about a community that was very nice, very lush, very well maintained. I'm not talking about that it was the higher end or the higher echelon of individuals who have, $500,000, $1 million homes. I'm talking about just your regular neighborhood when you were growing up and when you're playing on the street, how you couldn't be on people's lawns and this, that, and the third, because people took pride in their homes and they took care of their property. Now, I want you to think over time, that neighborhood that you thought about, if you visited today or if you visited in recent years, does it still look the same? And then I want you to think about this. What happens when you get a new flux of homeowners and neighbors in a community who don't come in with knowing how to maintain their property or having the pride to maintain their property, or they're not paying homage to somebody? I'm sure when I first got here, my neighbor was like, what in the Sam freaking hill is this? This girl doesn't know her behind from her hole in the ground, but what she did know is over time, and she would say that, Jennifer, that's how she says my name. Jennifer, you so quick. Every time you cut, it rains. It's like you're a witch. Do you know it's gonna rain? Now, I don't know why I had to be a witch. That's a comment for another video, but I pay attention to the weather. I don't want to be out here cutting in 80, 90 degree weather. I got too much land. I will pass out here. I've been doing this for 18 years. Nevertheless, I don't, this is work. This is work. So eventually, and this is what brought me to our video today, I thought about this as I was blowing my driveway. I remember I would buy the tools, right? The tools that I needed to get things done. And there's still a lot of things that need to be done out here, right? I still have to plant my flowers. I still have to do a whole bunch more maintenance. But I didn't even understand the importance of blowing the driveway down, blowing your grass away after you cut. I would have like grass lumped up on my driveway, lumped up in the crevices. I didn't edge it. I didn't edge my sidewalks. I didn't do any of that. Y'all, first of all, I didn't know. I didn't even go around like, you drive down people's property and you see like a tree in the middle of the grass and the grass has been cut, but they're still tall, like 6-inch, 10-inch grass blades around the tree. That was me. Once I knew that I was supposed to do certain things, I would do it depending on whether or not I had the energy to do it. That's a lot of work for one person to do. And so I got better though, because I was determined to understand what it meant to be a homeowner. I've done all kind of things around here that, I've had to do because it's just me and my daughter. I've done electrical work. Hate doing electrical work because I always, you don't fool around with electricity. But when I need a light or an outlet or a plug or ceiling fan hung and I call people and they don't show up, I have to do what I have to do. What I'm saying to you, and this is probably a long-winded way of saying this, so if you hung with me this long, thank y'all. Thank you, because I need some watch time. But what I'm trying to say to you is that things are not going to happen overnight. And to test your level of commitment, the test of your level of commitment is whether or not you're willing to hang in, do your research, learn what you need to learn, and execute it properly. That's the test of your level of commitment. Are you determined? For those of you who are transitioning out of education into training and development, who've reached out to me, those of you I'm coaching, this is for you. Those of you are, who maybe we don't have a formal coaching relationship, but you're using my videos to coach you. Those people are going into political office and you want to, you've been reaching out to me and you've been watching my videos. Wherever you are, those people are in leadership. If you want to be a leader, you definitely have to lead by example. You definitely have to roll up your sleeves and be willing to do the work and show people that it can be done. Now, having said that, there are going to be some things that you're going to need some assistance on. There are going to be some things that you're not going to be able to learn necessarily on your own. But that doesn't mean that you can't achieve some level of success starting out on your own. And then getting to a point where you have a better idea of everything you need, so you know exactly where to get it and how to go about getting it. Sometimes we want to take the lazy way out. It was easy for me in the home that I was spending my money on to allow my mother to have a landscaper come out and do whatever it was he did. I didn't care. That was lazy. And then when I got out here in a home that I inherited out of just love for my grandparents and, wanting to honor them, I realized that I may not know off the bat what grows where, or the chemistry of my soil, or how to necessarily drive the tractor efficiently. But if I kept on trying and I kept looking for information and I kept finding answers and I kept trying to apply them, every answer is not going to work for me. Every answer that you find may not work for you. But what will happen is the more knowledgeable you become, the more you'll be able to figure out, oh, wait, that doesn't work, but if I tweak it, I can do this part of it. And maybe if I do this, that'll work. And that's what happens. That's where you become proficient. Now, if I have a professional landscaper come out here today, they may do something completely different than what I do, but this works for me. And it's not an 8-hour job. It's a 2-hour job now. And listen, that's because it's springtime. The grass is thick. Praise God. I got healthy grass. That took a while. And, you know, it's growing rapidly. By July, I'll be able to cut this grass. And I walk the front, everybody. I have a walking mower. I walk the front because I want it to be mulched. That's what leads to me having a healthy, thick, lush lawn. And I use a tractor in the back. When I first got here, I used a tractor everywhere because I didn't know any better. But again, I tweaked my process and I became proficient. So proficient that people in the last, I would say 3 to 5 years, that would normally go to see my neighbor, knew exactly where she lived. She's been living here forever. Would literally pull in my driveway and ring my bell and be looking for her. And I was like, no, next house over. You know why? That's because my lawn and my landscape was beautiful and lush and inviting and, dare I say, magazine worthy. And I'm very, very, very happy about it. I put a lot of time in this yard. I can't do everything in one day, in one session. I've been weed whacking all week because I needed to catch up. My weed whacker was down and I had grass to my knees and I needed to, be able to weed whack and reestablish beds. So listen, if, take the meat and throw away the bones. We say in the church, take the meat and throw away the bones. If this is for you professionally, put in the time, y'all. Put in the work. Understand how to do it properly, whether that be through reading a book. There's a lot of, professional development. There's a lot of books in certain fields and industries available for you to read. Reading is fundamental. There are a lot of videos. YouTube is fantabulous for that now. You can look at academic journals. Remember, we've all been to school and we know that there's a difference between Googling something and finding out what Jennifer says or Jane Smith says versus, what's been done at the Harvard School of Law, for example, on a topic. So do your research. If it's your yard, I've talked to, I've gone to, what's those places? I don't want to say, where you're going to buy your materials, not Lowe's or Home Depot or your big box stores, but like Petitties, stores that specialize in flowers and plants and all of those things. It's drawing a blank right now. But go to those stores and talk to people who are knowledgeable about what you're trying to do. If it's your profession, talk to people who are doing what you do. Try to shadow them or do informational interviews. But I will say this, that a workman is worth his wages. So everything you get is not going to be that you get from another person. It's not going to be free, nor should we expect it to be free. If you want someone's expertise and you, as opposed to finding out yourself, you want to kind of shortcut the process and get their take on it, people's expertise is an investment. It's an investment they've made in themselves to get that expertise. It's applying their expertise to, evaluating their expertise to see, testing it, making sure that what they've been doing has been successful. Excuse me, I must be allergic to grass as I've gotten older. But my point is that it wasn't free to them. It's not fair for it to be free to you. And now people want to give you information, that's one thing. But for you to expect that you don't have to make an investment, and I talked about investments before, on this channel too, the importance of making an investment in yourself. You have to make the investment, and that's a part of the level of commitment. That's a part of, are you determined? And that's what leads to proficiency. So y'all, I just want to take a minute to talk about my grass for a second. Thank you for indulging me. And I just try to use everyday things and principles and circumstances to try to to try to correlate to where we are as leaders. You have to be determined. You have to be proficient at your craft. You have to figure out, what your leadership style is. And you're not going to be any good to anyone if you don't do what's naturally there. Yes, you can learn leadership skills and competencies and all of that. But you can also work with what you have, what's naturally in you. We're all gifted. We all have gifts and abilities and capabilities. And so I want to encourage you to figure out who you are. Figure out who you are and where you are in the process and what it's going to take for you to be proficient. All right? So I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and like it. And if anybody you know needs this information, go ahead and forward it out. Share the video and comment. I know I'm not the only one who has had some of these experiences. I'd like to hear from you too. And not just through email, in the comment section here. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Have a good one.